Awesome. I'll it's just even hard to remember everything. I'm going to bring up the bill here.
We are that one's
live.
Oh, good. We're in the green room.
We are
Awesome.
indeed.
Good. Well,
good morning, everybody. Welcome to the green room, and we have an exciting green room today.
well, it really is.
Well, Dr. Berry yesterday went up to Tallahassee for the last actually 2 days, and
Yeah, it's like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Mr. Toad's Wild
Yeah.
Ride.
Well,
so
listen,
tell us. I can't
well, I
wait to
will.
hear
And listen,
all of it.
I got to give kudos to Patty who drove,
Nice.
back
He had a
last night.
driver. Very
For
good.
sure, and that'll be the end of the story. But listen. First off, there's so much going on, and I have to start by acknowledging the passing of Jenny Perdomo,
Yeah,
dear friend and friend of the industry. Listen, she was a friend of mine, but she was such a dear friend to many people that I know. So
Very
important
sad.
early on in the
Detection.
educational part. Of progressing cannabis in the state of Florida. And, she had a cervical cancer and it came back, ultimately and got her, but was so surrounded by, family and friends at the end and, but she passed on Wednesday, literally after our last green room, right before the holiday.
Right before the holiday.
I know.
I saw
So
that.
as it is, but I wanted to make sure we started the green room that way. And,
Oh,
there's a lot going on politically everywhere, but for me, listen, and what's going on in Florida, as far as the green room is concerned, it's a really important time. I went up because the Andrew Learned and Spencer Roach are state representatives. Andrew Learned is Democrat from Tampa, and he's been working along with us doctors over the last number of months to try to fashion some improvements into the medical cannabis program, which literally, Ruta, have not happened since the bill was implemented.
No, it doesn't seem like
and there's some great news to come out, but that'll be the end of the story. So listen, the first part of my visit up to Tallahassee, there was a farm agriculture and consumer affairs. It was like Farm Day Florida or something like that. Samples, unbelievable. Patty were here. She would tell you about the jalapeno grits, bacon, and shrimp appetizer. And I had somebody's strawberry shortcake that was unbelievable.
That sounds like you.
The distilleries were there, so you could have a couple little sample shots of bourbon.
Nice. Wow.
So Commissioner Freed came out and spoke, of course. And listen, on the plaza, I ran into Representative Buchanan, our representative, for sure, and Lindsay, his aide. And listen, it's so interesting when you get involved in politics. And earlier in life, I never would have imagined it. You know how it is. You recognize people, they recognize you. And it's interesting. It kind of cuts it down to a more personal level.
Oh, it should be personal.
For sure.
I mean, they're supposed to represent the people, but somehow I think throughout time they get elevated or their heads get swelled. And it's nice to see our local, the majority of our local representatives.
For sure.
They're down to earth.
So I had a really nice interaction with Representative Buchanan on the, in the Capitol Rotunda outside area there between the old and the new. And anyway, and Jody James was there with me, and it made me feel so good when he was extolling his visit. And not that Jody didn't know this. Jody, of course, director of Florida Cannabis Action Network, who was up there also lobbying. Anyway, so running into him was fantastic.
Yeah,
also,
and he came out and he visited our clinic. And,
he did.
And I think everyone that comes to our clinic, every single person is overwhelmed.
Oh, I have some exciting announcements for the green room as we go forward, because we're going to have some more visitors.
All right.
And also some announcements about some of our local, once again, representatives who are stepping up. Anyway, so did talk to Commissioner Freed as well. It was fantastic. A lot of the talk was, of course, what's going to go on the hemp side of the Learned, Roach bill.
Was there a lot of
definite talk about Delta 8
8s?
and the other cannabinoids, and that'll come up a little later.
Mhm.
Also that afternoon, I had a chance to sit in on a meeting with Representative Ralph Mazzullo, who's the only doctor in the Florida House of Representatives. He's also met with our doctor group, everybody, leading up to this session. So he's known our concerns. And I'll tell you, one of the really striking things to me in the 3 days was his face when we were talking about the hemp side of the cannabis business right now, because he went out on a limb to bring that program to Florida as a Republican.
Okay.
So he does have disappointment in what happened in that market. And of course, as a physician, has the same concerns as we all do of safety, regulation, testing.
But really, I think they didn't see what could
Nobody
happen.
did.
Nobody saw
Nobody
that.
did. And one of the important parts of the Learned Roach bill is the restriction of the selling of Delta 8 products to anybody under 21 years
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
age. So they're going to
Absolutely.
automatically knock that down.
Good.
And then the regulation, I think, is going to come through the Department of Agriculture with a regulation and testing system at the state level. But we'll get back to
They're
it.
gonna need.
It's an
They will
important part
need.
of the bill.
And then there was a bill, I caught you were on the Florida channel and there was discussion about telemedicine, which was very important.
For sure.
And
So that's the next day. So,
yeah.
so Friday was great. We got in, and met with Eric Stevens, Florida for Care. Dr. Beasley was up there, Dr. Melanie Bone, Kevin Hughes. So there were other docs up there, which is great.
Which was
Some
nice
new doctors
that
too.
some doctors were there.
So then on Friday morning, I met with Eric early and we went to the committee meeting. So it was a banking and insurance committee meeting, interestingly enough, but they were doing a telehealth bill from Representative Diaz, I believe. But anyway, the first part of the conference of the committee was interesting though, Ruta, because they were talking about that cockamamie neurologic.
There's this neurologic
compensation, NICU. Yeah.
NICU. Like there's this thing in Florida, folks. It's really funny. We have to pay $250 a year to belong to it. It's kind of like mandatory.
Yep.
Yet nobody knows what it is. And nobody's ever heard of it.
So,
and finally, there's a committee meeting yesterday in Tallahassee mentioning this NICU program and that they need
which is a mess.
Which is a
so
mess.
it was the audit. It was the audit report of the disaster.
It
And they have a brand new board, a
disaster.
brand new director. They had to wipe everybody out. Literally in Ruta, there's only 220 some kids in this program that has lasted.
And they make everybody.
They make everybody pay.
They make everybody pay $250 a year. Every physician.
Right. And Dr. Bone, who's an OBGYN physician, right, and who's excellent. She and I collaborated on an elder care article that has not yet been published, which is interesting
really
too.
Nice.
Awesome, and did a great job up there.
Yes,
but anyway, she was telling me about how the program started. In the early days, it was only the OBGYN doctors. They had to put in $2,500, okay, each per year. But you know what happened? It resulted in a lot of them going bare in the insurance market because they had this fund protecting them. Okay, and there's tons of money there. But then they made every doctor in the state pay. But anyway, so that was the early part of the committee. But then they did discuss the telehealth bill. The interesting thing in this telehealth bill, it had nothing to do with cannabis, nothing, zero, nada. In fact, the only aspect of this telehealth bill was the allowance of phone, not video, to be used for certain conditions. Right. So we bullied our way in, admittedly.
I know you did, but it was good because Senator Tadeo, she brought up the point that she's like, a lot of poor people or people who are elderly, they don't know how to use a video phone. So like you were barring a whole population.
It was
and then the cannabis physicians came up and they were like,
yeah. And I apologize to Senator Diaz, not representative, of course. But anyway, so we kind of bullied into the bill, but it was great because Senator Broxton. So here's the funny part of it. I want to remind everybody, when you go up to Tallahassee and there's more than one speaker on the same topic. So Dr. Bo goes, Barry, you go first because I'm nervous. More, Kevin had never done it before. So I did. But what you have to remember is the person that speaks last gets the questions. So I went first and said my piece. And what I said was basically treat cannabis patients like every other patient. That's all. And we asked for that and job protections and nursing home use and all other things. Well, but in this,
Dr. Bones too, she made a good point because she does rounds in a nursing home.
She does.
And for her, she like during COVID, it was lockdown. You couldn't even see your patients. So without telehealth, what are you going to do? And then like the other physician, I don't remember his name from
Kevin Hughes.
Dr. Hughes from Apollo Beach. He's like, listen, he goes, I have patients who just come out of back surgery and he's like, they're not mobile. And he goes, they need their medicine. So, I mean, the points were super valid.
It was impactful, but
it was impactful.
Best of all, Senator Broxton opened up the door to us answering what we're seeing out there to the extent of positivity therapeutically. And Dr. Bone, God bless her, because I stood up. Listen, right when I saw questions, I knew that Melanie was going to be a little uncomfortable, so I kind of stood up, and you can't really bully back in. But she opened up the door for me by turning back, and they said, oh, Dr. Gordon, come back up. So I had a chance to speak to what you guys know, and you've heard me in the green room before. I speak to being a 2021 clinician, right? And I tied that into the telehealth aspect of it, because literally that's a discussion that we wouldn't be having back in 1981 either,
Yeah.
right?
But the only thing, the only thing I wish you had done, and because they did ask about patient outcomes, and
Right.
I think the patient stories, and I think that was the only thing that I think the physicians missed their point on. They should have brought up some cases of their own actual patients,
Sure.
because the patient stories are the ones that hit home the hardest.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I was amazed that there weren't a lot of NICU or not NICU families there or whatever. And I think that wasn't their session to be there, because you
No.
could tell that they've been up, kind of complaining about the
About their
administration
stuff,
of that
too.
program. And
But
this
it
and
would have
that,
been nice to hear some more like impactful stories, because I think that's
For
what
sure.
that senator was kind of saying. Like,
Right.
he goes, okay, you guys have had this program for 3 years.
Sure.
What's the outcomes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for sure, I'm with you. And you get so
Yeah.
darn nervous
You
when
get
you're up there
nervous, and I
charting
get that,
everything.
because
And
none of the
and also
docs
you can
said
just
that, and I
tell
was
that
like,
there's a
"Oh."
certain timing to it,
Yeah.
and we were kind of busting into their party.
No,
But
no,
here's
you
the
are,
good
you
news.
are.
No, listen, here's the fun part of it. And there always is, of course. So it was such a dry meeting that they enjoyed kind of
The
that.
cannabis. They
getting out of
they
it.
made a joke about.
They did,
Joe
because
Gruder.
listen, I said hello to Senator Gruters, who was sitting on the and there's big news about Senator Gruters, everybody, in about 5 minutes. Don't want to steal my own thunder, but no, the point is Senator Gruters on the panel. I said hello to him, and I also said in a part of my answer to Senator Broxton that Senator Gruters has been to my clinic for a visit, and they're all invited too. And of course, I didn't add in specifically for a tour of the clinic, not to get his card. So they make the joke, of course, well, we think Joe's been kind of mellow.
Yeah, he's kind of mellow lately.
Yeah, they made a joke about getting his card. So it was great. But
very
listen, I had a
cute.
chance to reach out to Senator Gruters, who I didn't get to see personally. And we communicated back and forth a little bit, but once again, not to steal thunder. So the committee meeting was great. Listen, you take your opportunities to make your points when you can.
Absolutely.
And interesting, and you know how Tallahassee is. So afterwards, we go to lunch, and we're sitting at, if I blank on the name of it, it's like stupid, because that's the place we always go. But anyway, everybody walks by, this, that. Everybody eats there. The Governor's Club is right next. Oh, Andrews. Andrews, of course. Governor's Club is there, and this and that. So the point is, you see everybody. So we saw Senator Diaz walking, back to his office or whatever after. And I said to Senator Diaz, sorry to, hijack your committee. He says, oh, no problem, this and that. So it's these little steps, they're kind of interesting.
They get to know your face, and
they
remember that. No, it is. It's a big step.
And you almost get kind of that feeling of kind of the center of power up there, and it's dangerous. Oh, no. Well, listen, and okay, so let's get to the meat of where we're at. So at noon, which was great, was the news conference for Representative Andrew Learned and Representative Spencer Roach, everybody. And it's really, really important. You can see the entire news conference on Andrew Learned's Facebook page. We're going to post some stuff. And it was really a great news conference. Here's the point about the bill. It's a bipartisan bill, right? And you have to remember, Ruta, this is the most important thing that came out of the entire news conference, in my opinion, is that the 10% THC cap battle, and this came out of Representative Roach's, he said the political will or the political time for that is past. That discussion,
he's such a politician.
That discussion is in the past. And
so look at what I said.
And when you get a bipartisan bill, nobody gets what they want. Okay, totally. And you get pieces.
Sure.
So if it was up to him, he would still do the 10% THC cap.
Yeah,
he admitted that. He liked his bill last year, but he is a politician and understands that if he can't convince his colleagues, right, then he's got to, right. So I commend him, and I do. And this is the important thing. Before the news conference, I had a chance to meet Representative Spencer Roach. And you meet him when they're just standing around waiting for the news conference, and you walk up, you enter, at least I would, walk up, introduce myself and hand him my card. And of course he knows who I am, and I appeared in committee last week, but I thanked him for his work with Representative Learned. And we had a tremendous conversation, and really his interest is not far from our interest in a lot of ways. We're going to watch the process very closely, because you never know how it can be hijacked. But I know what his interest is, because it was the same interest last year, but he was focused on the wrong place. His interest is in safety and the appropriate regulation of the cannabis product here in the state of Florida. He was extremely
restrictive, though.
No doubt.
His bill last year, he was very restrictive.
No doubt.
So I think he had a rude awakening when the Senate was like, it's not going to happen the way you want it.
Absolutely.
So,
and quite frankly, his leadership. So leadership
leadership
Speaker Sprouse is still, even to this side of of Representative Roach
Yeah.
himself. So I commend the bipartisanship, and that is the most important thing to me, is the bipartisanship that this demonstrates. Because listen, everybody needs to understand, and we'll go over the bill in a second. The things that are not in there that, I wanted in there, the job protections, the state by state reciprocity, the multiple nursing home caregiver status. Listen, Dr. Bone makes a point about this. I spent a great day with her, and I heard it multiple times in the different offices we stopped in, and there were others. Representative Skidmore being one. We met with Senator Book as well. So it was really a great series of meetings. But do you understand, Ruta? And I guess if I asked Tiff and Donna about this, they know this. Elderly patients in nursing homes and in assisted livings, they often don't have driver's licenses.
No,
They've expired.
they've expired.
And for them to go to the
DMV
and get a state card, right?
Yeah, then they need state ID.
So Dr. Bone makes this point over and over and over again.
terrible.
There's impediments to her
There
population.
Her population
Okay,
is
right.
seniors, and there's a lot. And even just to get the care in the medicines to the patient in a nursing home, it's very difficult.
For sure. So getting back to it, there were a lot of things we didn't get. We saw the first draft of the bill. We got it. But there's things that were left in there that are very, very important. And once again, it's a bipartisan effort. So what you and I know, Ruta, in Florida specifically, it's only going to be a bipartisan effort that's going to give us those job protections. That's going to give us, all the things that we want ultimately. It's going to have to be bipartisan. So for this year, here's the important thing. No 10% THC cap discussion, period. Gone, out of there. A reason for that, and I want everybody to hear this, is that the focus now is on the other side of the market that Delta 8 market, 10, 6, OA,
which is where it should be because
9,
it's unregulated.
9
so
as
they
well
need to regulate it,
in the unregulated market. So
and I'm glad they're putting a heavy focus on that, much more so than on the cannabis side. Because
it's important. And I say that as a doctor, we need to thread the needle appropriately on it and always speak for public safety, appropriate regulation, right? And also recognize that we have a lot of friends in the industry out there who were kept out. And here's the point, everybody. If you're in the Delta 8 space, the CBD space, okay, I say to you that there will be room for you, okay, if you put your products through the state system and have them regulated with the state, either fresh from Florida seal or safety product, whatever it is, and play by the rules. I mean, we have to play by the rules, and not everybody does. And we're going to get to that in a moment.
Well, I have to also just mention quickly, I was up in Massachusetts over the holiday, and I wanted to see a dispensary. So we went into a dispensary, and you just show an ID and you can go buy whatever the hell you want. Right. It's so easy, breezy, beautiful. You go in 2 seconds later, you're out the door.
For sure.
Yeah. No questions asked. We're like, do you need a medical card? They're like, no. They're like, why? Amazingly different. It
is. And that's one of the confusing things for patients as they come down here to Florida is what they have to do to access into the program. And why we continue to say that into the Learned Bill, for example, the doctor fee to take the test goes up from $250 to $500, and it becomes a 6-hour continuing medical education requirement.
Which it should be.
So people say, you must be against that. And people ask me this, and I say, no, that actually came out of the group of doctors in discussion with Representative Learned. One of the questions at the press conference was, does that mean that the doctors in the state aren't adequately trained?
I'm sure I know you had to, that was a big caveat.
Well, I spoke to that gentleman afterwards and I said, listen, I'm one of the doctors in the state who likes to think that we do it the way it should be done.
But there's a lot that don't.
Indeed. So us that are on the side of wanting to do it with the appropriate respect, I call it this way, everybody, and it's simple. You respect the patient, right, to give them the education. And listen, Ruta, when you say about Massachusetts, I got it. No one's going to die from cannabis. If you want to giggle into the refrigerator and it's SpongeBob that evening or something and get a good night's sleep, then God bless you. That's a fun night for me. But the point is, medically, and I get this question all the time when I'm in Tallahassee. People say, how do you stand on legal adult use? And well, of course I'm for legal adult use. And people say, well, isn't that going to harm your practice? And I say, no, because
there's still a medical side, even in Massachusetts. So the Massachusetts side for the medical, there's big tax breaks. So the difference
Right.
if you walk into a dispensary with a medical card versus a non-medical card is huge. And in fact, I met with some friends who are in the healthcare industry, and they have been consultants and holistic. They've actually opened some of the first holistic huge centers in Boston. And I met with them on Sunday, and they were saying for the cannabis side, there is such a lack of education, even to their
Absolutely.
patients now for the cannabis. And they said there's a huge gap in Massachusetts where education on cannabis from physicians has to occur because it's non-existent there. So it's kind of funny that the industry itself is saying that. So so kudos again. Florida, I think, is doing a good job in the rollout.
Well, the industry is up and down.
It's up and down, but here it's good. It's steady.
For sure. We're pleased with the
Yeah.
direction. We want more, but we can't get it right now. So
absolutely.
once
Like
again, you plant the bipartisan, of course,
Yeah.
you plant the bipartisan seeds. Listen, West Virginia so there's another Dr. Barry, everybody. His name is Dr. James Barry. No, seriously.
Another Barry.
No, this Dr. Barry is anti-cannabis. So he sits on the Cannabis Commission of West Virginia, everybody, and he is leading the charge up there for the 10% THC cap.
Okay.
So, we were actually reached out to by Greg Gerdeman to actually make comment in the West Virginia meeting on December 1st. Couldn't because I was up in Tallahassee, but Dr. Mike McKenzie did.
Oh, he did.
So Florida doctors are weighing in elsewhere.
They should weigh
I
in
know.
because
we have the experience. We know what's going on.
Experience on the medical side heavily, and I think it's so critical. And I think I'm so pleased. One thing for Tallahassee, and one thing that you as physicians are doing is going to the legislators, and you are speaking your piece, and you're in their faces, because unless you're in their face, they will not make change. So the fact that you guys are out there, and it's not just one doctor, it's several doctors, different backgrounds. You had ER, you had OBGYN, you have pediatrics, you have different specialties going up there, and all MDs behind their name, and it brings clout. And
I'm proud to say we've got our seat at the table.
You did, and you guys did it. I was so proud of you guys yesterday when you were up there. I was like, oh my God, they're all doing such a great job.
So let me give you a couple of fun things that are going to happen. So in my discussion with Representative Roach before the news conference, and it was great. We talked about a lot of things, education, and please come and visit the clinic. Well, he accepted. Not only did he accept, he turned around his card and he wrote his personal cell phone number down, and said, listen, after session or after committee weeks, before session, I want to come visit. So I think it'll be about the second or third week of December or something like that.
If he would agree to come sit in the green room. I mean, I think that would be awesome. Let's see. We can talk to his person. We'll work on that.
For sure. But anyway, but so, and I also, I did, so he's going to come and visit. And I told Representative Buchanan, I said, listen, if you want to come and come on back, and we can have a little, a legislative day here. Senator Gruters as well. But anyway, Representative Roach is going to come and visit. Also, everybody gave him a pin. Compassionate Cannabis Clinic pin. And listen, he put it in his pocket. Yeah, there's a whole bag of them. Listen, I'm like Johnny Appleseed with the pins. There's about 20.
These little pins are Cannabis Clinic. I don't think you can.
They're ours, okay. Others have
mimicked it.
Yeah, there's a mimic.
So anyways, these are very hot item up in Tallahassee, let me tell you.
I love having a nice full bag of pins because I get to be like Johnny Appleseed. But anyway, so Representative Roach put it in his pocket at the end of the news conference. Okay. One of the questions was, what do you expect to go from here? Are you done? And Representative Roach said, no, we're still meeting with doctors and everything. In fact, Representative Lerner said, yeah, there's one right over there. And that was me. And then Representative Roach pulled out my pin and said, yeah, Dr. Gordon gave me this pin before. And I'm not sure when I'm going to wear it, but it was great. So it was levity, and then the news conference was over. Yeah. So it was very, very cool. But it was really a great opportunity. And listen, the bigger groups have a lobbyist. And listen, they're going at things in a little bit different direction, which is great because everybody needs to pull on the rope together. And I was able to sit on a few of their meetings as well. And the paying of money, of course, is a pretty well time honored tradition up in Tallahassee to get access. But I say another way is to be consistent and persistent and respectful. So
which I think everybody is. And I think also, like, to be honest, I think there still is misconception misconceptions about cannabis. There are. And you have a bunch of legislators there who still have in the back of their mind, oh, the old days of people getting high and the hippies and whatever, you name it. And that's in their mind. So when they see a group of doctors coming in and they're all like, well-spoken, well-dressed, looking nice and speaking well, it gives a totally different perception, and it breaks down that old stigma. So the more you guys are up there, the better.
No, listen, I say it all the time, doctors only listen to other doctors.
Yeah,
they do. And politicians, you have a shot at, some of them listen.
You might get like 10%. Yes.
Patients though, on the other hand, listen, in general, they want the teaching, they want the education. So, I've always viewed that as one of my specific roles where I want to put my focus in.
And the other thing that I have to give you guys kudos to, when I was listening to the conference yesterday, not the conference, when you were actually speaking to the Senate, one of the things that overwhelmingly that I love, that each physician said it, every single one of you said, I am here for my patients.
For the patients.
Every single doctor said it without like being rehearsed. We're nervous that Dr. Hughes said, he goes, I've never done this, I'm nervous. He goes, but I'm here for my patients. And if your doctor is not one of these guys who's out there fighting for you every day, you may have to look at another doctor.
No, everybody's invited into our group, and please ask your doctor.
It is, because there's physicians who don't care, and then there's a group of physicians who are fighting for the patient every day.
So I got to get this in. This is really
big news.
This is big news.
Big news. Well,
so,
we need like a big
and listen, I'm not taking credit for anything that isn't true, but this is how it came down. So after one of our meetings with Representative Learned about 4 weeks ago or so, we were talking about, as you know, Ruta in Florida, you have to have a House bill and then a Senate companion bill. They both got passed. They go to the governor, it gets signed. So they needed a Senate companion, and they didn't know who that was going to be yet. So, of course, as a bipartisan bill that it was with Representative Roach and Representative Learned had mentioned Senator Gruters, who Ruta and I know well, of course, who has been into the clinic as well for a tour. And no, but listen, Joe, and you know him much longer than I. So the point is, I actually reached out to Senator Gruters after that meeting and told him I wanted to make sure he knew about the bill and if he had any questions about the bill, and he communicated back to me about it. Anyway, yes, Senator Gruters, everybody, will be one of the co-sponsors for the Senate companion bill, which is great.
It is. It's
really and we know Joe is the libertarian Republican. I hope I'm labeling that appropriately for him. I don't know. It's me, not him. I don't know. Let's take it back. Take it back. I apologize.
He's going to shoot you for that.
Yeah, I know. Now let's take it back.
Republican.
Yes, Republican. He is. I apologize.
Yeah, not
but one who breathes. Yeah, I apologize. But that's just me being politically stupid. So I do. But here's my point. I've always respected Joe for his views to the extent of that aspect of freedom. We've had the discussion with Joe about, legal adult use and this and that. So it doesn't surprise me that he's going to do, which is great. Senator Chevron Jones is the Democratic co-sponsor. So it's a great thing. So thank you, Joe, for that. And we really appreciate it.
News. And he's here local in Sarasota. For those listening, in the state of Florida, we obviously have districts, and we have state senators, and we have U.S. senators, and all districted. So Joe Gruters happens to be in our district as a state senator.
And once again, he's one that's come into the clinic and has seen what we do here.
Very open. I have to say, the guys that and the women, we haven't had Fiona in, but we do have legislators up in Tallahassee who are seemingly pro-cannabis, and I think they are. And again, I think that's important, because if you're representing, quote, the patients, but you're also the constituents of this area overwhelmingly support cannabis. So they're wise in their decision, because
and I think it's a statement, quite frankly, from the Republican Party itself.
It is.
I don't think Joe's
finally progressing out a little bit.
It is. And listen, once again, it's step by step, and the bipartisanship of it, once again, is what really I love.
I do too, and they need it. And
Representative Roach made a point of that at the end of the news conference, that this shows that bipartisanship is not dead in the state of Florida. But let me make a charge, though, too. Listen, we got the Supreme Court debating right now, literally overturning Roe.
Oh, God.
So we know there's things coming. We know there's things coming to Florida that are going to need logical debate, please.
Yeah, it is
logical. And it's the bipartisanship, once again, that I say it's great. Hang on, I want to get a couple things out about the bill for patients, because it's important to know. The timing of the doctor recommendation would go from 210 days to 240 days. The card would be good for 2 years, not
years.
one.
Which is great for cost savings.
That's meant to be a
it's
cost savings for patients. It would be
because
3
it's
doctor
exercise,
visits in a 2-year cycle,
which is
right?
much better.
Very importantly, everybody, and if we didn't
that
get through
me
this, telehealth. Very importantly, telehealth. Telehealth comes back. Telehealth comes back for recertification, right? With the doctor practice. Right now, the wording is still a little troublesome. It says with the specific doctor that saw you the first time. We know from experience that that needs to include all the doctors under the cover of that practice, like every other
practice. That's just a
which is one of the reasons that we're involved up there, okay, to make sure that that type of wording gets in. But here's the point, everybody, for recertification patients only. There was a lot of talk about, and I'm coming right out with it, about VeriHeal.
Oh, yeah, and there should be. I don't care.
For sure.
Go jump in a lake.
Well, no, there was a lot of talk about VeriHeal and their role in the market right now, inappropriately advertising. Okay. So we were not quiet about it early. You know, people knew our concerns, but believe me, those concerns are being voiced by everybody. And I know when I walked into the bigger group lobbyist meeting that they had an extensive conversation about that. Because listen, another part of the bill, there's advertising restrictions in there. Okay.
And radio and TV restrictions.
Radio, I mean, things
which for those listening, because we do have, I know Massachusetts, there's a lot of people listening because they told me they watch it on Thursday. So for a show,
Boston, and listen, you guys got the best football coach ever, okay,
yes,
and Bill Belichick. And
the best clam chowder in the world. Yeah. But no, but for those listening, like I said, I do know that there's some listening in Massachusetts. So what we were talking about now, it skipped my mind. After that cold brain freeze. Anyways, it is what it is. I don't even know
that's pretty funny because I was just reading through to make sure that would there's a testing council as well. So
the ads.
The ads.
So
yes.
In the state of Florida, most physicians.
Your brain freeze. That
was funny. In the state of Florida, there's been a discussion about open market advertising for cannabis. Like you guys have it on the billboards, get your cannabis here, get you here. It's all over the place. Well, we cannot do that. However, there are some groups that are not in the state of Massachusetts, state of Florida, that have come into here to advertise, and they set up these all of these physicians that are quote unquote here in Florida, yet they're either telehealth, they're all telehealth. They actually don't see patients, which is against the law in the state of Florida. You have to physically see your patients. So the physicians that are boots on the ground, like here, we're trying to fight for our rights and not have these out-of-staters come in and do things illegally and not give good patient care and give the whole industry a bad rap. So I just wanted, like I said, to give a shout, just to clarify it, because like I said, outside the state of Florida that we do have listeners.
Yeah, I mean, we try to follow the rules. That's what we do. It's critical to our patients. And, you know, that's what bothers me about the entire, you know, aspect of those that don't follow the rules, is those patients don't either get the care, education that they deserve, but more importantly, well, not more importantly, just as importantly, they're illegally in the system, you know, to that extent. And I would never want to see a patient lose their recommendation, you know, because the group that they saw didn't do it right.
Absolutely
you know, other things, the MMTCs, everybody, when they get their licenses, a lot of talk about the Pickford case and the Black Farmer case. We haven't heard a lot about it, but we believe that's going to proceed. We'll see how long it's going to be until the next round of licenses come up. But if you don't start producing product by the time the next site, whatever it is,
there's a lot of guidelines now that you have to produce within a certain time frame
on the MMTC side,
on the dispensary side. So, and they have a lot of, like, even up north, there's a lot of different dispensaries that come and go, they said. So again, if it's from a medicinal side, you want somebody who's going to be steady. And
it is the consistency of product. That's what our patients tell us they want.
Constantly.
And the medical marijuana testing advisory council. So they're putting together another council,
of course,
right? And with various people being, you know, appointed and everything.
But I think one of the important things is also that they are going to start including a physician from the medical cannabis space. That's a
thank you so much. One big thing is that, and the panel review meeting was last week as well, Ruta. God, I forgot that. I listened to that with Jody James, one ear, and me and the other, because we were sitting there in the Capitol Rotunda. So I was literally sitting in the Capitol Rotunda listening to the Board of Medicine talk about the program. So there's some outliers. There's some outliers in milligrams of cannabis dispensed. You know that.
Yeah,
There's
we
some
saw that.
outliers in the number of patients.
We're
good.
We are
you
so
know.
down the middle, and we are so good.
Right.
And
Well,
and that's why we have 40 patients in our waiting room right now. And
Yeah.
we have to go. So.
and when we say good, listen, what we mean is that my goal, and we can surely end the green room this way, and I'm going to go forward with this philosophy, everybody. My goal is to make sure that we are the beacon of positivity for cannabis as a plant itself, to learn, to educate, take it forward, respect the plant. From the patient side, we're going to be here every day offering the highest level of education and my staff of patient care and service that we can. And listen, you only do that if you focus on your home.
On your home base, and
on your home.
It is in our home. I have to say, I
got to thank Dr. T and Dr. T, my
Dr.
two part-timers.
And Dr. Shree for covering, and our staff is bar none the best staff you could ever ask.
Awesome.
These people work tirelessly for you. If you don't understand a form, they'll sit and help you. I mean, the level of compassion from this clinic is true and genuine. And I think if your doctors aren't giving you that, you need to look elsewhere. And
that's what keeps us perking every day. Listen, everybody, 2021 Omicron has come to the fray.
Yeah, Omicron.
So listen, 2021 and going into 2022, who can believe it's December already?
I know.
It's going to be a challenge for everybody. Listen, we're here to help as needed. We'll look for you next week in the green room. And thank you for allowing me to explain my Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. There was a reception last night as well. I met the second cousin of Chris Chambliss, who was one of the best Indians baseball players ever.
I wouldn't know.
No, I know you would, but I wanted to give a shout out to him as well. So contacts up and down. But anyway, listen, have a great holidays coming up between now and
not right now. No, and then we're going to be, just so that you guys know, you're going to have to tune in for the next couple of weeks, because then we're off for 2 weeks for Christmas and New Year's. So
Awesome.
we'll hopefully we're going to do something about just so that we're going to give you a quick teaser for what we're going to talk about in the next 1 or 2 green rooms is going to be holiday stress, because a lot of people go through a lot of emotions and depression during the holidays. So we're going to tie that into cannabis, and we'll touch base with you next week. Good night, everybody. Good day, everybody. I feel like
funny green room today.
What did I know?